Story 1. My joints feel 90, but my brain often feels like 18 to 22. I often feel like a child who kind of knows how to be an adult. Story 2. Mentally, I still feel like I am 21, but I am 28. The pandemic, hitting right after college, left me feeling like I never grew up. Story 3. 49, and still in my head, I feel like I am in my late 20s. Sometimes I catch myself and remember that I am actually an adult with over 30 years of experience. Story 4. I'm 33, but I'd say I feel closer to 27 or 28. I also spent half my adult life in a state of arrested development, supported by alcoholism, crime, homelessness, and a fledgling marriage. I've only recently started feeling like I've settled down a bit. Story 5. I feel like I have adult imposter syndrome about my job, but everything else is good. I have some body issues coming up, but what do you do? Story 629, but feel 16. I am finally fully being myself with no one making me feel small and finally speaking up for myself. Story 7. I am 28, turning 29 in September, and for some reason I still think I am 27. There is no specific reason I am aware of, aside from my brain being my brain. Story 8. I am 46, and it really depends on the day. Most days, I still feel like I am in my 20s and have no clue about anything. Story 9. I feel 32 and 36 sometimes. Sometimes I wake up and feel like I should have just been 40 for 20 years, and I would have been perfectly fine with that. Story 10. I am 25 years old, but the amount of back and leg pain I have had working in construction since I was 18 makes me feel 60. I hope it gets better. Story 11. I am 33 years old, but I feel 90. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and being overweight does not help, but I am not complaining too much. Story 12. I am 35 years old, and my mind is stuck at 19 when anxiety took over and ruined me until I turned 32. It was the last time I felt happy for more than a moment. Story 13. Depending on the day, I am 42 years old. I am dating a 33-year-old, but I feel like I am 30. I have a lot of energy. Story 14. I am 31 years old, but sometimes I feel 18 or 20. Maybe it is because I am a graphic designer and I work with many young people. Story 15. At 60 years old, I have hardly ever felt this good. I would say 28. Moreover, after a lifetime, since that age, of refining what I do for wellness, I have literally stopped contracting any sickness whatsoever, no cold, flu, or anything, since 2012 when I realized a few things and what to do. I cannot post the link to my wellness page, or it would be deleted. It is no gain to me on a Facebook page other than the gratification of helping someone. Almost all of it is either diet or a home remedy. Genesis 9 verse 3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. Story 16. I feel somewhat older physically since I am overweight, overworked, and out of shape. Mentally, I do not know. I feel overwhelmed like I was in my early to mid-20s. Story 17. 47 with untold responsibilities, dependents, assets, and money. But undoubtedly I am still a 17-year-old roadman at heart. It is lethal, and I never grew up. Being 17 yet having everything that adulthood can offer is exceptionally dangerous. I feel like Tom Hanks from Big sometimes. I am frozen in time. Story 18. Just turned 40. I'm a former dancer, cheerleader, and gymnast, currently a runner. I'm in decent shape but have felt old for years due to the stress on my body. I feel both 25 and 75 on any given day. Mentally, I feel I'm finally catching up to my peers, but having a child at a young age made me feel really old for a while. Now I'm feeling closer to 50. Story 19. My brain thinks I am 25. My body is sure I am 75. My birth certificate confirms I am 52. Edit. Apparently, I am a liar. I am actually 51. Story 20. I'm 18. I feel old, tired, but at peace. I feel much older than my peers, or even some people who are a decade older than me. Yet I also still feel immature, irrational at times, and like a child. I see people my age and in their 20s partying, hooking up with people, acting spoiled, doing foolish things, but none of that interests me at all. Whenever I talk, I feel like I end up getting deep into their life problems and giving them advice you'd hear from a 70-year-old who's made plenty of mistakes. I've done a lot and been through a lot in my life. My single mother had no friends and no nearby family, so it was literally just her and me. My father abandoned me when I was around 8 or 9. I was surrounded by alcoholics, constantly involved in fights growing up, and bullied by just about everyone. I had no friends until 5th grade except for a 50-year-old teacher. I had severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and severe asthma, and a minor case of dyslexia. I have some post-traumatic stress disorder and currently have hypervigilance. I've dealt with addiction both in myself and others. I experienced abusive relationships with my mom, one of her boyfriends, and other women in my area who I tried to support. I was sexually assaulted by women a decade older than me when I was 15. In 7th grade, I tried to kill myself by overdose. After that, I found Christ. Now I have a godson my age whom I brought to Christianity. I've hurt a lot of people. I've seen deaths of family members, wives lose their husbands, kids lose their fathers. I've seen people try to end their own lives, and I've talked some out of doing it. One of my past girlfriends succeeded. I've seen friends fall into pits of addiction and cut me off. I've seen families slowly lose their minds and their sense of self. I've dealt with cocaine addicts. I've fallen in love and lost that love. I've realized that blood doesn't mean the same thing as family. I've been abandoned by several people. I've taught myself how to be a man. Now I've found myself. I found God. I found peace. And I found a sense of purpose. Apologies if this post was depressing or too serious. Story 21. I feel 16 mentally and 18 to 19 physically. However, I feel 30 to 40 because I struggle getting off the floor due to bad knees and a few other issues. Story 22. I am 30 but still feel like I am in my mid-20s without major depression or poor life choices. Story 23. Biologically 50, physically 70, mentally usually 7 but sometimes 100, and I feel older than humanity itself. Story 24. I am 24 years old, but I feel both 10 years old and 70 years old at the same time. I have experienced a lot of trauma, which has made me mature faster. However, I am also disabled and generally have the same abilities as when I was 10. Story 25. But mentally I feel like a teenager. Physically I feel like what I imagine a disabled 80-year-old feels. Story 26. At 28, I still feel around 18 physically but without the immature 18-year-old mentality. For the most part, I feel younger than I am, but the mental change from 25 to 28 has been significant. Story 27. I feel like I am 24 years old. For that matter, I do not feel like anything significant has happened since then either. I am physically stronger and more mature, but that is about it. I suppose my beard has started growing in a little better too. Story 28. I'm 50 and used to feel 14 or 15 until I had therapy. Now I feel early to mid-20s, and that won't change, although sometimes I remind myself I'm not 5. I don't feel remotely like I'm 50. Story 29. Almost 52 on the outside, but a solid 38 on the inside. I am planning to stay 38 for life no matter how old and ragged my body gets. Story 30. 30, but I still feel like I am 18. I have had a few adults in my life tell me this, and I always thought it was a way for adults to connect with us. But you are only as old as you feel. Story 31. 65 but mentally and physically I am in my 30s. I work out regularly, play pickup basketball, walk trails, and so on. Story 32. I have 2 children. Sometimes I look at them and do not feel old enough to be responsible for 2 human beings. Every now and then, I go out with my best friend and feel or behave like an 18-year-old. Story 33. I can still channel my childhood self as if he is still in there. The 30-year-old me is still who I want to be physically. However, in some ways, I very much feel like a 47-year-old man, both in mind and body. I am all the ages I have been simultaneously. Story 34. I am 22 years old, but my back feels like it is 99, and my soul or emotions feel exhausted from all the trauma I have survived. I feel like I have lived thousands of years in just 22. Mentally, I feel like I am 20. Story 35. I am 43 years old but feel like I am 20 in terms of energy. I move like I am 35. The biggest caveat is that I spend hours a day maintaining how great I feel through diet, sleep, and exercise all dialed in. Story 36. I am 21 but feel 60 to be honest. I am unhappy and tired with life, and therapy does not feel the same as it used to. I am tired of growing and maturing after trying so hard all my life. I am not the role model friend I used to be, and I am embarrassed to show my face to people I love. I have been eating healthier and walked off more than 4,200 calories this week, but none of the anguish has lifted. Story 37. I am 66 years old. Physically, I feel that age due to nagging health issues, but psychologically, I feel like I am in my late 40s or early 50s. Story 38. I feel mentally and physically like I am in my mid-60s. If I actually manage to live longer than 60, I am going to be very upset. Story 39. 19, but I feel 80 because my body constantly hurts, and I injured my back, which does not make it better. Story 40. I am 39 years old, and honestly, I feel just fine. My 30s have been great. I am in relatively decent health, so I think my 40s will be pretty good too. Story 41. 20 and 68. I have seen things beyond my years. I have lived countless lives. I am not afraid to die. I welcome death with open arms. Story 42. I am 36 now. Some days I feel like that awkward teenager who makes me cringe at all the foolish things I did when I was younger, around 13 years old. Other days I feel like I need to form some connection with my younger coworkers in their mid-20s to get by. Most days I am exhausted because of my job. I am over it all and just want to leave, feeling like I am over 45 on those days. Story 43. I just recently turned 27. I feel many things and absolutely nothing at the same time. I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. I do not regret anything, but postpartum experiences are rough. Story 44. I am the opposite of most people here. You all are officially adults. I am 13 on the outside and 28 on the inside. I know I am a bit crazy. Story 45. 59, but feel like 35 to 40. Reasonably active and fit. Somewhat wiser, financially stable. It is a very good place. I have never felt so content, relaxed, and at peace with myself. It is a great age. I wonder if this is the peak of existence. I hope this feeling remains. Story 46. 37 million on the outside. An insecure 16 million on the inside. A year and a half ago, I would have been much more confident in myself. But my job abruptly shutting its doors and the stress of that worsening my usually dormant multiple sclerosis symptoms really affected me. I have not worked since October of last year. I get tired so quickly and cannot do the work I absolutely loved. I considered myself one of the lucky ones who actually enjoyed their job. Story 47. I am a 30-year-old male but have a prolactinoma, which destroyed my testosterone. I felt like I was in my 60s and had a testosterone level of 174. Since starting the medication 2 months ago, I feel much better. I feel about 40 now and hope to feel 30 in another couple of months. Story 48. I am 32 years old and feel like I am 27 or 28. It is hard to explain. I lost my 20s to mental health struggles, which makes me feel stunted in many ways. The pandemic hit when I was 27, and I feel like I have been stuck there. Story 49. I'm 25. I feel like I'm a caveman, not literally. Ever since the family pet dog, I have been keeping myself busy so that I am not at home. Story 50. This one is fun for me because I recently turned 28 but feel like I should be in my mid-30s already. Spiritually, however, I feel like I have been around for eons. My reasoning for that is it has always been easier for me to conceptualize geological time, which is millions upon millions of years, versus what I call human time. You could ask me what 30 minutes is, and I would give you a different answer every time because I do not understand it. Story 51. I am 64 years old and truly feel 35. I take good care of myself, and after being in one career for 30 years, I have moved on to an artistic one that I left behind years ago. I hope this energy continues. Story 52. I'm 60. Around my coworkers, husband, and friends, I feel 30 because we are always laughing and goofing around. Around my dad, I feel 10 because he treats me like a child no matter what. Physically, I feel the same as I did at 40. Story 53. I am 29, turning 30 in a few months. Inside, I somehow still feel like I just graduated high school despite everything that has happened since then. To be fair, I look younger than I actually am, so that is a plus, I guess. Story 54. I am 35 and still feel 21. I don't feel like I have aged a day past that. I have just gained emotional depth and self-awareness. The fun-loving, free-spirited youthfulness of that age is my core. Story 55. I turned 40 last week. In some respects, I still feel like I did when I was 18, especially when it is just me and my friends. I am still funny and impulsive, and I still have the temper of my youth in some circumstances. But in other ways, I do feel my age. I am certainly a much better partner than I was earlier in life and a much better father. However, I am much less tolerant of nonsense, especially at work. My dad is 67 and still feels 25. Story 56. 29, but I feel 18. I do not mean like, ew, I am 29 or anything. I do not care about that, but inside my head, I am still the same confused, scared kid graduating high school. The world is too big, and navigating it correctly is hard. Messing up is unpleasant. Story 57. I am 36 and feel my age now. I used to feel like I was 80. It is amazing how eating a little healthier and getting some exercise can make such a difference. Story 58. I feel like I might be around 60 on the inside, as if I have lived many lives. I even enjoy older music and movies in general, but I also have a wild, young side. It is a mixed bag, really. Story 59. I am 36 years old. Physically, I feel like I am still in my 20s. I started working out and eating better a few months ago, and the improvement has been great. Otherwise, my knees and back are pretty good, but I still have to turn my head like Batman if I sleep wrong. Mentally, I feel strong. I have been through a lot in my life, and I am currently trying to rebuild myself after an 8-year-long relationship that ended because my fiancé cheated on me. I am tired, sore, angry, and most of the time I just want to be at home alone. Story 60. 41. But I feel like a sexy 25. Giving up on all the my body is ugly thoughts and abandoning makeup and beauty standards in favor of what I love to wear is the best. I wish I had this insight 20 years ago. Story 61. I am 23 and I feel amazing. I am making money, building a house, have a cool car, amazing friends, and a good relationship with my parents. I have never moved from my hometown, and I feel like I am bawling inside. Story 62. I'll be 40 soon and I still feel like I'm 21, just way smarter. I've had an awesome life and have had some cool experiences. Story 63. I am 70, but I feel about 40. I still have younger men showing interest in me. I am not sure why, but there it is. I have taken excellent care of my skin since I was 20, and it clearly shows. I am glad I did that. Story 64. 51 but have the mind of a 14-year-old boy. I cannot say balls or cock without giggling like a schoolgirl. For your information, I am a logistics coordinator who actually has a caulking and sealants vendor. Story 65. I am 58 and on the inside, I feel 58 most days. I still enjoy flatulent sounds, burping, silly humor, and so on, but I also handle adult responsibilities very well. Deep inside, there is a 12-year-old who never grew up, and I think that is great. Story 66. I am 51. I don't think I ever really left 27, but now I am less healthy. I am still an introvert who can make myself laugh all day long. I think the trick is to hang out with younger people. Life is moving too fast. The devil reminds me that death is around the corner. Story 67. 27 but feel like 19 or 20. I do not drink or smoke and have never wanted to. College and COVID merged and flew by or got lost in translation. Story 68. I am 48 years old. I feel 18. I enjoy doing fun activities. I expect that if I live to 60 or 70, I will still feel this way. Story 69. I perpetually felt 25 after I reached 25. It has been some years now with additions to the family, but yes, 25, and I do not think that will ever truly change. Story 70. I will turn 35 in a couple of weeks. Mentally, I often feel like an anxious teenager. Physically, I feel like I am in my 60s or older because I have arthritis. Story 71. Depends on the day. I am 41, and my daughter just graduated high school, but I do not know how that is possible because I feel like I just graduated a few years ago. On average, I probably feel about 30 though. Story 72. 51. Bones and joints 70, experience 51. Naivety 11, planning things 25. Executing those things not 25. Personality overall 51 to 60. In my dreams at night 15 to 30. Also old enough to order and enjoy fish tacos. Immature enough to giggle inside when I do. Story 73. 50 years old. Mid-30s, laughing out loud. Watching Tomorrowland livestream and dreaming about taking it off my bucket list. Story 74. 32 years old and a lifetime of sports and active jobs make me physically feel more like 50, but mentally, because of my work, I finally feel like I am in my late 20s. Story 75. I am 21 years old, but I feel like I haven't matured beyond the age of 12. I am supposed to act more mature for my age, but I feel like I have regressed since then. Story 76. I am 28 but feel like 16, just with a lot of responsibilities. Now I am the one who takes care of my mom and the house in general financially. Sometimes I feel that I cannot handle it all. Story 77. I am 22 years old and feel extremely helpless and lost, but also happy to wake up blessed every day and to be experiencing the things I do. Story 78. Age is 34. Maturity and experience. Survived cancer. My family. Sometimes feel like 25. When it comes to dreams, never stop dreaming, still have many goals to accomplish in life, still aiming for early retirement. Energy level is like 20 to 25. Only my knees are giving out, haha. Story 79. I am 28 but still feel 18 to 21 in some respects. I have changed a lot since then, but in many ways, I have grown up with a more positive outlook on life than ever before. I am still learning to reach major milestones too. Story 80-30, but nearly 100. I am guilty of this as well, but nearly everyone I meet is extremely immature in certain ways that make me look at them like children. Basically, it is hard to take anyone seriously. Story 81. If anyone believes in the Bible, we are all relatively like babies. They lived to be 999 years old. I believe that was the oldest. Story 82. I am 20 years old, but sometimes I feel 12 when I crave safety. Other times, I feel about 40 because I have a back fracture that never healed. Story 83. I'm 31 but I feel like I'm in my 50s. Just utterly exhausted with 2 young children, 6 years old and 5 months, and not recognizing my body at the moment. I'm sure, and I hope, it will get better. Story 84. I am 49, but I do not feel any different than I did when I was a teenager. It often takes me by surprise when someone reacts to my age because it does not actually mean anything to me. Story 85. I am a 29-year-old female. I feel like I am 45. I feel old and unattractive and cry at least once a week about aging or the fact that I will be 30 soon. Story 86. I am 26 years old, working a professional job with people relying on me, but I still feel like a 15-year-old with no idea what he wants to do when he grows up. Story 87. 19, but it is never certain. Am I 17 inside? 15? 5? 7? 9? 40? Trauma has affected me. Sometimes I feel like I am 40 as I rest from the weight of everything and enjoy my first few years free from bullying. Other times I am 9, stuck in school because I never moved on from surviving every day. Story 88. I am 34 and still feel as clueless as I did in my 20s. Reading all the comments made me realize it might feel like this for the rest of my life. Story 89. I am 27 and I feel my age. I am not sure I fully understand when people say they do not feel their age yet. I have always felt like the age that I am. We will see as I get older, I suppose. Story 90. I am 19, but I still feel 13 or 14 inside. It feels like I am never going to grow up, and I want time to just stop so I can be with my family and friends forever. Story 91. I felt just as great as I did at 18 previously, if not better, as I really took care of myself physically. Now that I am 9 months pregnant, I feel like an 80-year-old. Story 92. I am 40 years old and, apart from being slower both physically and mentally, I still feel about 20. Story 93. I am 53 and feel about 33, which is old enough to know better and decide if the consequences are worth it, and young enough to still do it if I want to. Story 94. 19, going on 20. Still feel like I am 16. I think that is going to be the case until I am at least in my 30s. Story 95. I am 77, but I am so tired all the time. I do not seem to get anything done. I usually blame my age. I feel like I am much older. Story 96. I am 42, but I feel about 34. In my 30s, I was very depressed, and it has taken me about a decade to come out of it and rethink my views on life, happiness, and success. I feel younger now than I did then. Story 97. I turned 30 in 2020. I feel like it is still 2020. It is like I froze. Time has felt odd since then. Story 98. I am 31 but still feel like I am in my early 20s. However, when I see some 20-year-olds, I do not think I want to be like that. So, I feel like how I was when I was 20, not how 20-year-olds are now. Story 99. I am going to be 60 in 2 weeks and feel like I am 100 some mornings. My feet hurt, my hands hurt. I hurt all over, and I hate it. In my mind, I feel 25, but my body has let me down. Story 100. 58 on the outside and 25 on the inside. 25, because I was married to the most beautiful woman in the world, and we had the cutest, sneaky little girl in the world. I had a good job. For the first time in my life, I looked around and said to myself, life is finally perfect. I was so happy then. Everything just fit. Story 101. I am 31 years old, and I feel my age physically. I am in great shape and still feel young and full of energy. Thank you to strength training, sports, and a clean diet. Inside, I feel my age as well. I have much more to learn, but I have a great foundation and have matured well since my youth. I feel well balanced inside and out. Story 102. I am 26 but feel 21. In fact, there was a time when I accidentally said the wrong age out loud and had to count my own age in my head. Story 103. I just turned 24, but I feel 19 in the sense that there is so much I do not know about the world and I do not know how to manage it. Story 104. Mid-30s. In some ways, I feel my age with some stamina issues and joint pains. In other ways, I feel much younger than my age and a bit irresponsible. Story 105. 31 on paper, but I have never felt that age within. I guess internal age is a number we measure against old dreams or social milestones. I cannot recall the feeling of youth or the echo of a time I thought I would figure things out. I wake up every day hoping today is the day I break my mold. Am I moving down a road? Or is it always the same day repeating? Story 106. I am 32 years old. I often feel mentally and physically like I am 25. Then I straighten my legs after squatting for 30 seconds, and my knees remind me I am approaching 40. Story 107. I'm 24, but I feel like I'm closer to 30 or 40 because I play classic games and listen to classic music. I also mainly wear collared shirts in public. I don't understand many of the text abbreviations I receive. Laugh out loud. Story 108. I am 30 years old, but some days I feel like a 16-year-old who knows everything. Other times, I feel like I am 80 and about to die any day. Story 109. 27. Sometimes I feel like I am 4, sometimes like I am 80. Of course, I cannot know what an 80-year-old feels like. Story 110. I am 47, but my partner and I always joke that we are 13 at heart. Goofy, silly, and often inappropriate. Also, we may have some form of Tourette syndrome. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.